Welcome, welcome, welcome back to the Divorce Recovery Show with Diane Valiquette on Ottawa Buzz TV. You know that game you used to play maybe when you were a kid where you tried to put these pegs in the holes, and they always say like you can't put a square peg into a round hole. That's the same kind of thing what we do with relationships is we try to fit into somebody's fantasy of us, or we try to fit them into our fantasy of them. And at first we understood that something is supposed to fill them up. But until we figure out that what we need and what we want has to come from within, we won't be able to find somebody else to work with this in a relationship. So welcome to the show today with Diane Valiquette, your divorce recovery coach. She's going to tell us all about some of the things we do to trip ourselves up and what we can do to become aware so that we make better choices for ourselves and those that we're involved in our lives. Welcome, Diane.
Welcome. Thank you, Rebecca. All right. So it's actually really good because I teach on Wednesday night, so I can just use an example of what happened yesterday. So yesterday I was asking everybody their home, or the thing that we had to do in class was to write everything that you talk to yourself about. So all your negative self-talk. And a lot of the negative self-talk, I told them they had to write at least 10 things. And then they had to stand up and read it to each other. And after that, I go around and I say, circle the one thing or three things or two things that are actually true. And so I went around the class, and one of them especially struck me because she said, I'm disconnected. And so, and I said, so what does that look like? So being disconnected. She says, well, every time I get into relationships, I feel like I fit in with them and I'm all open and, and connected and everything. She says, but then the minute the relationship becomes a committed relationship or a serious relationship, I start disconnecting and we can't fit together anymore. And she just couldn't understand. Like she goes, I've been doing this. This is my fourth relationship. And every time that I try to connect on the committed level, she says, when I'm just dating, we're just having fun, I'm okay. I connect when we connect together because there's really nothing asked of me. She said, except when we get into a relationship and I need to commit. I can't. I can commit, but I can't connect. And so she was, there was a lot of tears around that. And she realized that she had never really connected with her parents. And so she learned how to disconnect from a really, really young age because she was the caretaker. Her parents were both addicts, and she had 3 siblings. She's the oldest. So she connected to all of the chores and the duties and everything that she needed to do, but never actually really connected to her feelings or her needs and her wants because she just couldn't. She wasn't shown how. And she just totally disconnected at a really young age. And so when somebody comes too close to her in the committed relationship, she just freezes or doesn't even know how to talk about things in the relationship. And interestingly enough, the partner then starts making her feel bad because he keeps mentioning to her, you're never connected. We feel like we're always off. You're not in the flow. I don't know what's happening to you. So she keeps doing her self-fulfilling prophecies, also of meeting people who are going to put her down for what she can't do. And so what I was trying to explain to her is that, you need to get to a place to understand. So that her awakening yesterday was, understanding that that's what happens to you and being able for you to talk about it with the other person and ask the other person to help you, which means that you got to get pretty vulnerable and pretty open to being connected. And the only way you can do that is by asking the partner that you're with to help you get to that place. And so for her, it was really difficult to hear and yet enlightening because she realized that, it can actually be fixed and I can actually work on that and get into a healthy relationship. So that was like a really, really big breakthrough. and so that's what people don't understand. They think it's all about the other person, or, we just don't flow, or we're not in a good dance together. But the most of the time is you not being in a good dance with yourself. And so you meet people and you completely change because you want to be with them. And yet you don't even understand yourself. And in the end, what attracted you to him was that you were able to be connected. And then all through your marriage, you were not able to connect again, right? And you didn't even know why. And he kept putting that in your face over and over. Whereas if you're in charge of it and you know that exists inside of you, you can actually test, in dating to say, this happens to me and I'm going to need to have some of your help in order to move into being able to connect, and if that partner can understand you and hear you, then you have a whole different dance, right? And I think the most important thing is people always say, it's about the other person. It's never about the other person. It's what's happening in you that's causing you the repetition of patterns and meeting the same people over and over again. So
at what point in your relationship would you actually kind of reach out and say, at what point? Like, this is how I enter relationships. I'm all like this. And then after, I'm disconnected and I need your support, whatever it is. I mean, that's like it's pretty intimate sharing. It's not just like, it's probably the first little while in your relationship, but like, it's also a precursor to any good relationship.
I agree, Rebecca. And I think it needs to happen, when people are talking about being in a committed relationship, right? I mean, you don't say, hey, hi, what's your name? I disconnect. You need to help me. And you know what, let's do this. No, I think that you can, and I mean, again, here we go, right? With people getting into relationships and too fast is also, really dating and understanding somebody else and, sharing some of your vulnerabilities to test to see if that person even is equipped to be able to be present to your wounds and be present to his, because that's the only way that you can have a healthy relationship, right? And so I think at what time? I think at the time where you're talking about a committed relationship, when you're talking about entering and being in an exclusive committed relationship.
So like you're talking, this is one of the people who is taking your rebuilding program. So people come and do your rebuilding program for like 12 weeks and all that, which sort of cracks open the awareness part. So you start to recognize which part belongs to you and what you can do to shift that. But I think that, I'm not sure, but some of these things, because if you're in your 40s or 50s or 30s and this woman said it was in her like fourth relationship. I mean, it's not just going to happen overnight, right? And I know like after your program ends, is this like, would they be going to some kind of ongoing counseling or something, or some kind of support so that they could, as people are starting to bring about the change in how they behave with a greater insight in themselves, that they can tweak and adjust and go, okay, I did this and then I kind of reverted back. Like, what kind of support do people need to have in place to be able to continue to grow in self-awareness and clarity?
Well, at the center, so I work with Catherine Corey and Mehdi Mignot. So I have two. I have a person who, like Catherine, I'm going to talk therapy, and she works it right to the core of where it started and what you said about yourself, and that's why you have to disconnect. So yes, throughout the course, Catherine does most of the rebuilding with me, and a lot of them have therapists, and they'll work right when I open something up. I always say, if you're seeing a therapist and you're going, on a regular basis, you need to be working that topic. And also, we are starting to do support nights, so free support nights once every 6 weeks for the participants of the rebuilding class, so that, everybody has the same language. So it doesn't matter if it's class number 1 or 20, it's open to all rebuilding clients, and we're going to do a support evening and pick topics that's in the room. So, and Rebecca, you're right, like they need to, after 12 weeks, they're not going to be healed, and they're not going to understand everything. So they need to continue to to work it.
Right.
Right.
So, earlier, when you were talking about what you're going to cover today, it's sort of like what we're searching for. So this we'll use this example. That's what you started with.
Yeah.
Is so she's looking for connection, but she's unable to have connection, right? What's the harm or the damage that comes to the other person that decides to enter into relationship with her?
Well, the thing is that so like example, she's at work. He calls her, hey, just want to say, I can't talk to you right now. I'm working. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Right. And she's like, oh my God, like I actually do that. But she's also like working and she's completely disconnected from him, like doesn't miss him, doesn't want him, doesn't anything. She's at work. Right. And she doesn't know how to even click back in to say, hey, how you doing? Are you, having a good day? And then she, goes home that night and just cries because she didn't even know how to do it.
Right.
Right. So, I mean, the thing is that, so right now she's in a committed relationship. So what I said to her is call him and tell him what happens to you and why you can't go from one to the other, because it's just not natural to you. Right. And what
brain, she has to retrain. It's a retrain. Yeah.
She has to retrain her brain to be able to say, okay, he's calling, he just wants to connect and say hi. I'm going to kick myself out of work mode for 10 minutes and say hi, how are you doing? Right. The thing is because she's acting on the 0 to 8-year-old. So it's almost like the little girl who is on a duty and she can't think about anything else because that's all she can handle.
Right.
Right. And so, but then again, and then she said, she was saying even with friends would say to her, like, I haven't heard from you in 2 months. And how come? She goes, oh, I had nothing to say.
Right.
Right. And she says, like, I struggle. What?
Yeah. I hear these kind of stories a lot from different kinds of people. I don't know if it's just their same issue, but it's like it's really black and white with them. It's like, well, I don't have any urge for it.
Exactly. Right. And there's no, like, it's not a mental disorder. It's not, a diagnosis of some kind. It's just how they've operated in life. And, and I always say to them, and they're looking at me like yesterday, they think I was nuts, that, some of that helped her in life, like to be disconnected from a lot of drama or emotions actually protected her a lot. Right. Yeah. And it got her to where she is today. But I mean, at the age that she's at today, she wants a relationship and a family and feels like she'll never get it because this is what keeps happening to her. And so
you got her professionally somewhere, but not in a holistic
not in a relationship. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and exactly, like, where she is in her career, that really helped her. Anyways, but in an intimate relationship, right? She just doesn't know how. But I mean, the thing is that once you're able to tell on yourself and once you're able to understand yourself, then it's easy to explain to somebody else, this is what I do. That's not really cool. Right. Like I had them all cracking up because I'm like, well, I know I'm a drama queen and it's okay. Right. And I'm okay with that now. And they were saying, like, because you have to accept that piece of yourself. Right. And so if you accept that piece of yourself, then you're a lot more, whole within yourself. Right. If you're trying to hide a part of you, then you're not being honest or you're not being authentic with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You have to wear a beware sign or something. Right.
Yeah. Beware. I'm going to go into drama state any second now. Yeah. But anyways, you understand. I think everybody can understand that is, it's all about, unpacking yourself and unpacking the stuff that keep you away from creating healthy relationships. Mm-hmm. Right. So next week, what we're going to talk about is why you should do the rebuilding. The 12-week program that I do on people, coming out of a separation, divorce, or not able.
How it would help me?
How it would help you how it would help you understand what happened in your relationship and why, and what was your contribution versus his contribution or her contribution. And also, like, for her, right, she's only 30 years old, has had 4 different relationships, but if they've never worked and she doesn't understand. So it's for people also who are repeating the same patterns and want to know, how do I get out of this in order to be able to get, married one day and have children. All right. So we will talk about the rebuilding next week, the 12-week rebuilding program. Try to find out what is your adaptive behavior that keeps you away from being in a relationship. So I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.